All right, hi guys. No flying in this video. Just gonna try to make a quick, short video, simplifying a traffic pattern around an airport. So for all you veteran pilots, flight simmers, this video is not going to be for you. But anybody who's new to flight simulation or who's interested in aviation and just looking for some guidance or helpful information, hopefully I can help you. Uh, So this video is just going to be about traffic patterns. Right now I have Navigraph charts pulled up and I'm currently looking at Nashville, Tennessee. This is the VFR sectional from Navigraph, which is actually, or should I say FAA sectionals, what they call it on here. These are actually just VFR charts. And I say charts because this looks like one gigantic chart, but it's actually a whole bunch of charts all spliced together. So trying to get straight to the point, keep this short and simple and sweet to the point. What did I just say? Short, simple, sweet. Okay. Anyways, moving on. I'm going to get rid of the VFR sectional here because I think it'll be easier to depict the runway. So, quick explanation. What are the numbers on the runways and what do they mean? So basically, you have runway 02, which is usually the zero is usually dropped and it's called runway 2. And then you have 20, which is runway 20 or 20. So you have runway 2 and runway 20 or 20. You wouldn't say 20, you would say runway 20. Runway 2, runway 20. Now you can say 02 if you're talking on the radio, but most pilots will drop the 0 and they'll just say 2. And here's why. All runways are aligned according to their magnetic heading. So, the old North Pole magnetic area that's way up here. So true north on this map is right in here somewhere. Magnetic north is actually over in here. So it's slightly off. So there's two different degrees of headings on a map. You got true north and then you got magnetic north. When aviation, almost everything is done according to magnetic north. Why? Because aircraft navigate via a magnetic compass, essentially, quote unquote, also known as a heading indicator. Heading indicator is set to the magnetic heading of a compass heading inside your aircraft. So this is actually a magnetic heading of 020. You just don't see the third 0 there. And this is actually a magnetic heading of 200. You just don't see the third number. They're dropped. Why they do that, I think it's just to simplify the runway numbers. So I'm telling you that to tell you this. What you need to keep in mind is that a traffic pattern leg, or the legs, the names of the traffic pattern, although they do say downwind, crosswind, upwind, whatever, has absolutely nothing to do with the direction of the wind, unless you're actually landing into the wind. But forget about that. The traffic pattern legs have nothing to do with the wind. I don't want to confuse you right off the bat. So let's imagine you're going to depart runway 2 and you're going to fly this way, which is a northerly direction. East, was it northeast? It'd actually be northeast. So you're going to fly this way and you're going to fly left traffic. So that would be to the left side of the runway. If you were to fly right traffic, you'd fly to the right side of the runway. Right side of runway 2, going this direction. Well, when you turn left, if you're making left traffic, that's going to be your crosswind leg. If you turn left again, this is going to be your downwind leg. And you turn left second to the last time, this direction, that's called your base leg. And one more left turn for your final leg. Now, usually, there's a leg flying out this direction, that starts from about the end of the runway that comes up to here before you get to your crosswind. That's also called the upwind leg because you're flying upwind. Most pilots do not make this call because they make a call at the departure part of the runway, and they'll make a call departing runway 2. Unless it's absolutely necessary, they usually won't make a upwind leg call. They'll just make their crosswind. One reason for that is because there is actually a leg over here that's also your upwind leg. So there's actually a full like square box around the airport, and each line is a leg. So these would be your base legs, and this would actually be, if you flew along adjacent to the runway this direction, this would still be your upwind leg. And if you're making left traffic, you would turn to left crosswind, left downwind, left base. And for those of you who would say, well, what about, once you get beyond the final approach, what is that leg called? Well, that's still your base. Let's assume you're just going to continue circling the airport in a square on each leg. Well, it's still your base. All those legs, okay, you have crosswind, downwind, base, upwind, crosswind, downwind, base. You get the idea? But you're normally not going to fly over here because you're headed for the runway. So when you turn your base, you're going to turn what's called final. And then even once you get off the departure end, this is still considered your upwind and an upwind leg, should I say. Why is it called that? Even though this is upwind? Well, because the leg is called what it is because of the direction of flight that the aircraft is taking adjacent to the runway. What runway you're landing on. In this case, it'd be runway 2. So flying up this way, this would be your upwind leg, crosswind, downwind. But if you just wanted to go around the airport, you could fly base all the way over to another upwind leg. So why is the terminology upwind, downwind, all that stuff? It has nothing to do with the wind. Well, it actually has nothing to do with the direction of the wind. The idea is that you're going to land as close to into the wind as possible with a headwind. So if you're going to land on runway 2, evidently the wind is coming from a northerly direction, flowing south. So technically the leg, if you're landing on the proper runway, would be into the wind, and this would be downwind, and this would be upwind. But the fact of the matter is, at an uncontrolled airport, which John Toon is a towered airport, but it's uncontrolled at night. It used to be completely uncontrolled. The fact is, at an uncontrolled airport, a pilot has discretion to land on whatever runway he wants. So if the wind is from the north flowing south and a pilot decides he wants to land on runway 20 with a tailwind, he has the right to do it. It's strongly ill-advised, but if that's what he decides, then it's pilot's discretion. Nevertheless, if he does do that, the traffic pattern legs and the terminology used for them are the same. It doesn't simply change because of the direction of the wind. So everything I've just told you about departing runway 2 and flying a left-hand traffic pattern or right-hand traffic pattern, so this would be right base, right downwind, or I'm sorry, right crosswind, right downwind, right base, and then final. This would be left crosswind, left downwind, left base, final. Everything's the same for runway 20. It's just upside down. So if you depart 20, you're going to make left traffic. You would fly this way. This would be your upwind leg, left crosswind, left downwind, left base. And the same for right traffic. You'd be upwind, right crosswind, right downwind, right base. And it doesn't matter which direction the wind's blowing. What matters is what direction the aircraft is flying. The terminology is a little confusing if you're new to this stuff. So crosswind, downwind has nothing to do with the winds whatsoever. It has everything to do with the direction of flight of the aircraft according to the runway that you're landing on. So the base legs could be down here, it could be up here, it depends on what runway you're landing on. So if you're landing on runway 2, your base legs are going to be down here. Your crosswind legs are always going to be up here. So that's landing runway 2, landing towards the north. Landing on 20, your base legs are going to be here now, and your crosswind legs are going to be up here. In any direction opposite of that runway, so runway 2, if you're departing here and you're coming out this way, opposite of that direction is considered the downwind leg. The assumption is that the pilot and the aircraft is landing generally into the wind. So if you're landing on 20, the wind should be coming from the south. So that would be your downwind leg. But regardless of what the wind is doing, that's still a downwind leg for runway 20. And this would be a downwind leg for runway 2. Now, what I haven't specified yet is the mention of left or right traffic. The standard is a left traffic pattern. So if you're flying left traffic for runway 2, it's going to be this way. If you're flying left traffic for runway 20, because you're facing south, you're going to come this way, and this would be the left traffic. So this would be the left hand. It's upside down right now. You know, how do I explain that? Hopefully you're getting that. That shouldn't be too complicated. So this would be the left side of runway 20. This would be the left side of runway 2. And the opposite is true. This would be the right side of runway 2. This would be the right side of runway 20. Why have I mentioned that? When I have flown myself, I have flown to airports where there were student pilots or ignorant pilots that were making their traffic calls, and they would say something like Piper, November 4678960, Papa, whatever, and they would say they would make their call and they'd say they're crosswind runway 2. Well, what the heck does that mean? Crosswind is here and here. Are you making left traffic? Are you making right traffic? Because depending on if you're making left or right, that would dictate which direction I'm going to look in to find you. So as you're making your leg calls in the traffic pattern, you always preference it. Preference. I have not been drinking, I promise. Well, maybe just a little. But anyways, you would call it as such: left crosswind, left downwind, left base, final runway 2. Or right crosswind, right downwind, right base, final runway 2. And then just the opposite, just for clarity. So if you're landing on 20 or departing runway 20 up here, you'd come down and you'd make left crosswind, left downwind, left base, final runway 20. Or right crosswind, right downwind, right base, final 20. Hope that's not too terribly difficult to understand. Hopefully, I mean, I didn't, excuse me, I didn't exactly sit down and write out a script on how I was going to explain this. I just thought, well, this is about as basic as it gets. But for all those newcomers, hopefully this helps you. It doesn't matter which direction the runway is pointed. The terminology and the idea is still the same. So if you went over here to, say, B&A, the Nashville International, they have an odd runway here, runway 13 and 31. So if you're departing runway 31, obviously 31 is a magnetic number. So this direction is roughly magnetically aligned with a compass at a heading of 310. And 13 is its reciprocal, or 180 degrees off, and that's a heading of 130. Drop the zero. Drop the zero. So if you took off on runway 31, you fly this way. If you're going to make left traffic, this would be your upwind leg. Then you'd make left crosswind, left downwind, left base, final. And like I mentioned before, this would be an upwind leg, but most pilots don't even bother to call it. They'll call their crosswind because you're already announced that you're departing runway 31, and then you're going to turn left crosswind. So it wouldn't be applicable unless you had somebody coming into the traffic pattern in the area of your upwind to your crosswind turn. And if you know they've been announcing they're coming in from a certain area that's going to be in that direction, you might want to mention crosswind because they may have not been on the radio to hear you say something about you departing runway 31. So, and then it's the same for right traffic. Same thing, just a big square, and then you flip it around for runway 13. It's departing runway 3, or I'm sorry, runway 13. This would be your upwind leg, left crosswind, or right crosswind, depending on what traffic pattern you're doing. And that's about as simple as it gets. The standard entries to a traffic pattern is, so let's say your intentions are to land on runway 2 at John Toon here. If you're coming in from the west, ideally you would want to enter the left downwind for runway 2. So you come in and you enter directly, you just make your right turn to your downwind leg in the AIM/FAR, which is Aeronautical Information Manual and Federal Aviation Regulations guideline in their books and their rules. It's basically the pilot's Bible. If you don't know what that is, you go get one. It's got anything and everything you need to know about aviation rules and regulations, all kinds of stuff. Generally speaking, you're supposed to enter in a 45-degree angle. So if the downwind is parallel to runway 2 and 20, you would enter at a 45-degree angle, then turn downwind, then make your left base turn, then your final. Same thing if you're coming in from, say, this direction, you're going to land on 20. You enter at a 45-degree angle, turn your left downwind, left base, then final. So that's standard. So is straight into the downwind. If you got to fly way out here and then turn and come this way, if that's what you want to do, or straight into the base from over here, left base runway 2, or even a straight in final for the runway from either here, straight in to the runway. Pilots do all these things. They're all accepted, but there are standard entries which are typically the 45-degree or straight into the downwind leg. The Federal Aviation Regulations and Aeronautical Information Manual suggest that you don't enter into just a base leg on an uncontrolled field, then turn final for safety reasons. Same thing on just a long final if you can avoid it. They want you to fly multiple legs in a traffic pattern just so that other traffic in the area can find you. And the more legs, the more calls you have to make, obviously, the more or the easier it would be for someone to locate you visually if they're in the pattern as well. But it's up to you. Another thing that pilots do, and I learned this very quickly after I got my pilot's license, while I was in training, this happens a lot, and it's something that happens on a regular basis, but it's not illegal. I don't care one way or another as long as somebody is saying something about it. Pilots will cross midfield, and then so if we're going to land on runway 2, if they're coming from the east, they'll cross midfield at traffic pattern altitude and turn left downwind, then left base to the final. Excuse me, I just ate, so I'm like burping in my mouth here. Yeah, that's great information, right? Anyways, so crossing over midfield to get to a downwind leg is pretty typical. Or if you got to make right traffic because the airport dictates it or whatever, in the airport facility directory, or actually I think they call it the airport or supplement directory or something like that now. Some airports, like John Toon actually, specify left or right traffic for a specific runway. So runway 2 is standard traffic, left traffic. Runway 20 is actually right traffic. So even when tower's not in operation, you would have to make right traffic, runway 20. Uh, if you were busted making left traffic, runway 20, you could get into some trouble. The main reason for that is, let's see, of these, this obstruction right here. This is a 1,369 foot tall tower that is 2,049 feet above sea level. And John Toon sets at 500 feet above sea level. So, anyways, you got a really tall tower that's right there. Radio or I don't know what you call it. I guess I don't know, tall tower. And this is a very hilly area right here. So just it's for obstacle and terrain clearance is usually, or noise abatement rules or laws is why they would dictate left or right traffic. But yet again, it doesn't matter. The traffic pattern has nothing to do, the name or the terminology used has nothing to do with the direction of wind, but has everything to do with the direction of flight adjacent to the runway that you're landing. So hopefully that helps somebody. And if it don't feel obliged to let me know about it in the comments. Just move on. I'm just kidding. Anyways, that's all I got for you. Hopefully that helps somebody.